Hey, what's going on, guys? I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I want to say hello to everybody. I hope you all are doing well. Today, I want to talk to you about this financial crisis that is pretty bad. We are now in the middle of what can be defined only as a retirement crisis, and there's a lot of data that explains what's going on. I'm going to talk to you about what's happening. I'm going to make sure you understand it so that you can prepare for the future and make sure that you and your family are ready. So get comfortable, buckle up your seatbelt, hit that thumbs up button, and we're going to get started on drboystv.com right now.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones too late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to co-sign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to drboystv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. Give me a yes if you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me okay. I am in transit, but I wanted to do this podcast because I wanted to share with you some financial information that I've been picking up about the state of the economy. Now, basically, a lot of you, I don't know what ages you guys are, but right now, I'm going to just make it quick and make it plain. We are in the middle of the beginnings of what I would refer to as a retirement crisis that we've been waiting for a long time. The crisis isn't coming. We've been talking about it for 20 years. The crisis has arrived. The crisis is here. Millions of senior citizens cannot quit their jobs. A lot of us think that retirement means that you're done working, you can stay home all day. And we've now gotten to the point where that's just not going to be possible for most Americans. Now, as I move forward, give me a yes in the chat if you can hear me okay. I want to make sure you can hear me. These YouTube channels is crazy to have over 1 million subscribers, and YouTube doesn't send out any notifications to anybody. I think my channel might be shadow banned, and that hurts the viewership numbers. But either way, though, if you want to stay in touch and you want to make sure that you can get notified when we go live, stuff like that, just text the word stock to 87948. Text stock to 87948, and periodically I'll send you guys a direct text message because apparently YouTube does not send out notifications on channels that are a little bit too black. But anyway, so here's the deal. All right, so basically what's happening, and this is something that the Wall Street Journal just covered in a recent article, or in a recent, actually it was a podcast episode, and then also in an article they wrote about this. And the studies have been showing this is going to happen for a long time. That basically you have a situation where old people can't retire. One third, 33% of all senior citizens, these are older people over the age of 65 who fully expect to be able to quit their jobs. They can't. They simply cannot. This whole old school model of, I'm going to work my butt off and sacrifice my whole life for the corporate plantation so that one day I can get my pie in the sky, get my gold watch, get my chance to sit around and watch TV all day. That ain't happening for most of y'all. That ain't happening for most of the people listening right now. And this is the new economy. This is the economy that you live in. And I can tell you exactly what's going on, exactly what people are feeling, what they're going through. And then I'm also going to give you solutions, right? I'm solution oriented. So I'm not just going to leave you hanging. I'm going to tell you, as I break down with the problem, I'm going to also tell you how to avoid the problem and make sure this does not happen to you. So here's what. So basically, a third of all people over between 65 and 69 are still working. This number has been on a steady increase. It used to be about 25%. Now it's up to 33%. In a few years, it'll be 40%, then 45, then 50, then 55, then it'll be half. And then what they're going to do at some point, I guarantee it, is they're going to increase the retirement age. The retirement age will not be 65 forever. It's going to be moved up to maybe 68, maybe 70 or something like that, because they need that productivity. The United States is a country that is on the decline based on a number of measures, one of which is simply the productivity of your citizenry, right? And your productivity as a country comes down to how many young people you have. Young people are an asset for a country. That's why Africa is predicted to be one of the fastest growing economies on the planet. In fact, if you text the word stock to 87948, I'll send you a list of assets you can own that'll give you a stake in Africa. So I'll give you that so you can be a part of that. But anyway, so part of the strength of the African economy is really because they have a lot of young people. So the United States is losing its young people. The population is getting older. A lot of your baby boomers are starting to retire. And what this is actually doing is it's creating a situation where you basically have you have a lot of people that can't just can't afford to retire. So you have millions and millions of people that have now hit their old age and they don't have enough money saved to survive for the next 20 or 30 years without an income. They just don't. In fact, give me a yes or no. How many of you right now, if you had to go, let's say 5 years with no income, how many of you could go 5 years with no income? Forget 20, 25. Remember, when you make it to the age of 65, that right there increases your life expectancy. Do y'all understand that? That just by making it to 65, because a lot of people don't make it to 65. So just the fact that you made it means your life expectancy is higher than most people. So you're predicted to live another 20, 25 years, sometimes 30 years, because you made it to 65. So give me a yes or no. How many of you think that if you had to, you could survive, let's say 5 years with no income? And I bet you the answer is no for most people. It's no for most Americans. Most Americans don't have enough money to even pay for, 6 months of expenses or even a month of expenses, let alone 5 or 10, 15, 20, 25 years of expenses. So a lot of these younger people are going to get older. Do you hear what I'm saying? A lot of these younger people are going to get older, and I'm not trying to scare you. I'm going to give you some solutions. I'm going to sort of tell you what's going on, then I'm going to tell you how to avoid it. So a lot of these younger people are going to get older, and when they hit retirement, they won't be able to retire. That dream of retirement will be dead. And really, it's all a hoax anyway, because America is one of the few places where they can literally tell you that if you work like a slave for 40 years, you can get a few years of watching TV and a few years of freedom. I personally think you should aim for your freedom early, not late. I think that freedom is best enjoyed when you're young, not when you're so old that you can barely walk. But then we could talk about that later. You guys know we do every morning, we do financial consciousness training at 10 a.m. every single morning. And you're welcome to join us. If you really want to get ahead on this economics, my PhD is in finance. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a stockbroker. I'm a guy who has a doctorate in this stuff, which means that for me, finance and economics is a science. We have studied money the way you study rats in a lab. We study money at a scientific level to understand where the money's at, who has the most money, how they got that money, how to protect that money, right? So it's a different level of insight where I can literally tell you, I can dissect for you exactly why the black community has less money than the white community. This is not a mystery to me. The racial wealth gap is only a mystery to people who don't want to solve the problem. It's a mystery to politicians who want you to think that all you have to do is vote for the Democrats. It's a mystery for white folks who control all the assets and don't let you have what you deserve. It's a mystery for black people who don't want to learn, right? It's not a mystery to me. It's not a mystery to the scientists in the Black Business School. So we have financial consciousness training every morning. If you want to get an invite, just text the word morning to 87948. I guarantee you it'll change your life. So anyway, let's finish up this point. So most or a third of all people 65 to 69 are working, which is crazy. And it's not a surprise because we've been talking about this for over 20 years. Over 20 years, they've been predicting a retirement crisis, mainly because Americans are not very good at saving. In fact, Americans are horrible at saving. Americans are some of the worst savers on earth. We're the biggest consumers ever. And so we don't just not live, the best recommendation is to live below your means. But not only do we not live below our means, we don't even live at our means. We don't even live at the means that we have. We don't even spend money, all the money we've got. What's so crazy is that in America, you've been trained to spend money you ain't even got. That's what's crazy to me. I mean, it's one thing if you spend all the money you have. It's another thing when you've been so brainwashed to be a consumer that you're spending money that doesn't even belong to you. That's where credit cards and bank loans and student loans all comes into play. Give me a guess if you know what I'm saying. If you notice this, people are going into debt. Credit card debt is at an all-time high. Student loan debt is at an all-time high. Car loan debt is at an all-time high. And so while the corporations are getting rich, it's putting you in a deeper and deeper hole financially, making you a bigger and bigger slave to the corporate plantation. And that's all by design. That's all the master plan. So if you're not listening and you don't want to hear any of this and you think this is stupid, then okay, good luck to you. You're going to be struggling. You're going to be suffering. So basically, a third of all people between 65 and 69 now have to work. This is not a surprise because back in the day, your parents had something that they got from the corporate plantation. They got screwed, but at least they used Vaseline, and they gave them a little bit of money on the dresser drawer after they finished screwing them. And that Vaseline or that money on the dresser drawer was this thing called a pension. The little bit as they screwed your parents too, but they didn't screw them as bad as they're screwing you. They would give them a little something, something to make sure that when they got older, they were going to be okay. My parents are now over the age of 70. Both of them have very healthy pensions that allow them to buy what they want and do what they want. And they have plenty of money. They have almost as much money in retirement as they had when they were working. Okay. And that's because of pensions. Now, how many of you, give me a yes or no, how many of you have noticed that pensions are disappearing? How many of you have noticed that companies don't offer pensions like they used to? How many of you know you paid attention at all when they said, oh, no, we don't need pensions anymore. We got 401ks and IRAs and these retirement savings vehicles that allow let you control your own money. How many of y'all remember any of that? Well, now here's the problem. Here's the issue. Because Americans are so addicted to spending, and because rates are not going up, companies aren't paying you more money. People are not putting money in those retirement vehicles. They're not putting money in their 401k. They're not putting enough in that IRA. They don't even know enough. The financial literacy rate. Pay attention now. The financial literacy level in America is so horrifically low that people don't even know how much to put in there to be prepared for retirement. Most people don't even know that. Now, I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying this is the dynamic. So when you don't have a lot of financial literacy, when you have an addiction to consumption, where people are spending money like crazy, pay rates are not going up. Oh, and did I mention this other thing called inflation? Anybody heard of inflation? Anybody notice how going to the grocery store ain't what it was before the pandemic? Well, if you add all that up, you know what that adds up to? You know what that adds up to in the world of Dr. Boyce? It adds up to a freaking crisis. It adds up to a calamity. It adds up to an emergency. So effectively, millions of senior citizens, and not just black people. It's just black people. We're gonna get it worse. You know, when white folks get a cold, we catch pneumonia. So So when I say a third of all seniors between 65 and 69 have to work, it's probably about 60% for black people. Like whatever that number is for white people, it's probably double for black people. Give me a yes if you agree with that, because our financial problems tend to hit different. So this is what you're dealing with. And this is a problem that is not one that's ever going to go away because most people are not going to listen to me. Most people are going to be watching Netflix or paying attention to their favorite rapper's baby mama or whatever, right? That's what we do. That's the culture. The culture is an ignorant, stupid culture that prepares you for loss, calamity, and disaster. It prepares you to be a victim. It teaches you to be reactive and not proactive. It does not teach you to prevent problems. It teaches you to let problems happen so that you can sit around and complain about it and then say all this happened to you because you're black. It creates victimhood. I'm not a victim. I'm not interested in being a victim. So anybody who's not interested in being a victim, please keep listening because I'm going to tell you exactly what's going on and how you can prepare. Here are a couple things you can do in order to deal with this retirement crisis that has already begun, that isn't going to go away, that isn't that's going to be here for good, that's literally going to not just stay around. It's like a financial STD that's only going to get worse. It's an infection that's just going to keep getting nastier with every 5 years. Every time you hear a statistic about the state of retirees, I guarantee you for the next 25 years or more, every time they get the stat, it's going to be worse. And at some point, it's going to hit crisis levels, and the United States will start to take its proper position as a third world country. So here's how you can make sure you're not a victim. Number one, get rid of the economic culture that's around you. You have to live below your means. Whatever money you make, you got to find a way to live below that. It's absolutely essential to do that. I know it's hard, especially if your income's low. I'll talk to you about some ways I've seen to increase your income. These things can help you. Number two, you got to save. You got to save early. You got to save often. If you're in your 20s and you're smart enough to be listening to this and you're in your 20s, you've got a huge advantage over people that are starting in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. And then if you are in your 30s, 40s, and 50s, or 60s or 70s, just know you've got grandkids, right? It's going to be worse for your grandkids than it is for you. It's going to be harder for them than it is for you. So if you start saving on their behalf, if you start investing on their behalf, if you start doing things like the $5 a day investing program that we have in the Black Business School, then you can help them prevent the disaster that's going to hit so many other people. So you have to save, you have to invest. You need to live below your means. That means that maybe some economic consciousness training can benefit you. The financial consciousness training, if you show up live, it's totally free to show up live. Now, if you want archives, if you want all the lectures I've done, there's about 40 or 50 of them that I've done by now, then that you can go to drboycedaily.com and become a member, and you can even send me questions, and I'll answer your questions specifically on a video, and I'll send you back the answer. So that's an option if you want to be a member at drboycedaily.com. But if you don't want to be a member, we've made the live sessions free. And what we cover every day, everyone loves it. 100% of the students love it. When we asked them, we did a survey. We said, how many of you would recommend this class to a friend? 100% of the students said yes. So this is not a game. This is not a joke. I know what I'm talking about. Most people on the internet giving financial advice are giving bad advice. So, so here's a thing you have to do. You got to deal with whatever happens to you psychologically that causes you to feel like you have to spend money. All the stuff that makes you feel like you have to buy luxury brands, everything that makes you feel like you have to spend every nickel in your pocket, everything that makes you feel like you have to buy the most expensive car, or that you got to spend money to impress people that don't matter. You got to deal with that. You need financial therapy. You probably need financial therapy. And that's why in the Black Business School, we created something no HBCU has, no predominantly white university has this. We created the first ever Black financial therapy department in the Black Business School. And this is basically designed to work with the best therapists in the Black community to find the psychological barriers that exist to building Black wealth. When we do our research, we are shocked at how much Black wealth gets lost from undiagnosed and untreated trauma, how much wealth gets lost from broken families, how much wealth gets lost from bad culture, how much wealth gets lost from a horrible educational system, how much wealth gets lost from generational curses, how much wealth gets lost from dysfunction in the family. All these things can be prevented, and you have to do that. If you don't, then the crisis is coming. The crisis isn't just coming, the crisis is already here. You probably know somebody in your family who is over the age of 65 who doesn't have enough money to retire. Some of you may be that person, and my heart goes out to you. Maybe there are some solutions. Some other things in terms of making extra money. Uh, One might be the side hustle. I have found one of the reasons why in our business school for children we recommend to all the parents that every Black child learn how to start a business by the age of 12 is because that side hustle can save your life. That side hustle, it may not be a big business, it may not make you a lot of money. That side hustle may only make you, $1,000 a month or 2,000 a month, but that 2,000 a month can be the difference between barely getting by versus having whatever you want and going on vacation. It could be the difference between really struggling versus buying a really nice house in a really nice neighborhood because you got an extra 2,000 a month to put toward the mortgage or whatever, right? So that little bit of a side hustle can make a big difference. There is I can actually, if you text the word stock to 87948, we have a book at Dr. Boyce Books called 10 Side Hustles You Can Start for Under $100. Actually, it's 13, I'm sorry. So if you'd like to get that, you can go to drboycebooks.com, search for the word side hustles, or you can just text the word stock to 87948, and I'll make sure that gets sent out to you. But the side hustle is a lifesaver for a lot of people. Another way to make extra money is our students have been making a ton of money selling stock options. And when I tell you that that is a killer way to increase your income, especially if you can build a little capital base and get some stocks and you're trying to generate enough money to pay some bills. I all I can say is if you're not listening and not hearing me, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to convince you that this is the real deal, other than to say, like, this is how I make money for my family. Every single week, I make more money selling stock options each week than a lot of surgeons make on their job working 14 hours a day. And I'm not joking. I'm not making this up. This is 100% true. So if you want to see, just get a glimpse of this, Text the word money to 87948. If you text money to 87948, I'll send you a training I did called How to Make Money Without Working. It's not BS. Again, I'm a professor. I'm not into being flashy. I'm not into making stuff up. This is based on financial science, financial research. There are a million ways in this economy to make money. Where do you think rich people come from? Why do you think in this economy you've got people that either have a hard time making money because they were never trained on money, or people that seem to just make money easily? See, y'all got to think about this. I want you to process this. This is what I call a consciousness exercise that we do with our students every morning. We do financial consciousness training. Ask yourself, why is it that we have a world where it seems like it's either really hard to make money or it's really easy to make money? Like I got invited this week. I met this really nice lady. She happens to be white, but again, I don't discriminate against white people. People think that because I love black people that I hate white people, and that's not true. I don't have time to hate anybody. Hate is a horrible energy to carry around inside your body anyway. And I met this really nice lady, and we hit it off in the conversation, and she invited me to a Formula One race in Miami, right? And now Formula One, if you know anything about it, Formula One is pretty big stuff. It's like these events, really super rich people show up. They're all driving these like $200,000 cars, and it's like money to burn, right? They do these races in places like Monaco and Miami where there's plenty of money flowing around. And so if you look there, if you go to a Formula One race, it'll look like money is everywhere, right? You'll see stupid people that have lots of money. You'll see, people that don't work that have a ton of money. You'll see people that haven't accomplished anything, like just, they'll be like, oh yeah, I need to raise another 100,000. Okay, no problem. I'll get the money to you by 2 o'clock, right? So how does that happen? How do you have people that can raise $100,000 by 2 o'clock, and then have millions of people that can't get $500 in a month, right? I'm not making fun of anybody in that category at all. What I'm saying is that a lot of it comes down to economic awareness. If you understand how money flows, the way someone like I do, you'll see like this economy is the richest economy in the world. There's a lot of money out there. But then if you think about it, process this. If you don't have the money that you want, I want you to ask yourself a basic question. And this is a hard question. I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings because you know me, I just give it to you raw in terms of telling you the truth. Um, I want you to ask yourself a basic question. How much time did you spend growing up learning about money and finances? How much time did your parents spend explaining to you how to invest or how to buy real estate or how to start a business? How much time did you spend talking to your friends about it growing up? How much time did you spend growing up learning that from your teachers? Answer me in the chat. How many of you feel like when you were a kid, you were just inundated with nothing but financial conversations everywhere? And I bet you that if you like a lot of our people, the answer is like practically none. Most of us didn't have anybody talking to us at all about money at all. So the question is this has the simple question is a simple answer. If the simple question is why do so many black people struggle with finances, the simple answer is well because nobody ever explained it to them. Nobody ever told you where the money was. Nobody ever thought about it. The things you think about manifest. Do y'all understand? How many of y'all know the term manifestation? That what you think about is what manifests in your life. If you think about negativity, then negativity will emerge. If you think about wonderful, positive things and hard work and success, well, that's what tends to emerge. So if you're not even thinking about money, then how can money manifest itself if it's not even part of your consciousness? I want you to think about that for a minute. So what we do, in the mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern, and we do this 7 days a week, is we just think about money. We just talk about it. We just talk about like where it's at, who has it, why they have it, who lost it, why they lost it, where it's going, who's got it. And what happens is that when you're inundated in a way of thinking, what you're doing is you're creating culture. You're manifesting culture. Because I want you to think about other things. Think about things like basketball. Think about when you get black males, millions of black boys that want to be basketball players. And how does that happen? Well, they all grow up thinking about it, talking about it, constantly manifesting basketball in their lives, like basketball, basketball, basketball. And then when they get older, it just looks like the black man is like the greatest basketball player on the planet. Why? Well, because he's been thinking about it so much, so hard for so long that he can instinctually, without thinking, do basketball moves that put other people in awe. White people are in awe at our basketball playing ability, are they not? Give me a yes or no. If they watch black men do stuff on the court where a guy will take the ball, jump in for a dunk, take the ball between his legs on the way up, and do a 360 at the same time. And people are like, oh my God, how do you do that? Well, he's manifested that because he's just been practicing that every single day and thinking about it constantly. And he has athletic gifts that are unique to him because he's a descendant of those slave breeding farms where they used to breed us back in the day to create these super athletes. And this is the truth. I'm not saying that that's the only reason, but that's true. Look it up. There were slave breeding farms. So what I would say to you is, if you want your family, yourself and your family's economic scenario to change, you must ask yourself, what am I manifesting? And so if you want to manifest money, one good way to start would be to do something financial every day. And again, I'd love to invite you to our financial consciousness training. We decided it did have a fee, but we decided to waive the fee for those who want to come live. But now, if you do want to get all the recordings because you missed a class, it's definitely worth it. The good part is that one membership can feed your whole family. So you can literally let everybody in your family share your membership with you. And it doesn't cost that much. So if you go to drboycedaily.com, that's where you can get a membership. Now, if you don't want to do that, that's okay too. Just text the word morning, morning, morning to 87948, and I will send you the link today for you to join us. It'll either come today or tomorrow morning, and you can join us in the morning. And I know you're going to like it because we just did a survey, and 100% of our students loved it. So why did I have this conversation today? And by the way, if you could take a moment, please hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, share, subscribe. That helps us beat the algorithm a little bit because literally I think the algorithm works against us. I think that my channel is probably shadow banned because I've been, I hit political issues and stuff like that. And because it makes no sense to have 500,000 subscribers and only, 80 people come into the chat because they didn't notify anybody. But that's life. That's how things work. It's okay. But anyway, the reason I wanted to have this discussion with you is because I just went through that article where they were describing the research on what's happening with retirees. And again, most people, it's very scary when you think about the fact that people are not just uh, they're not just neglecting to invest in their finances to prepare for retirement. People are not even investing in family anymore. They're not even investing in family because here's the deal: if you ain't got no money, who's going to take care of your old ass when you're 75 years old and need somebody to take you to the doctor? If you ain't got no money, who's going to take you to the doctor? Well, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be one of your kids or your spouse. And I want you to pay attention. This is an example of how bad culture puts us in bad situations. How many of you, give me a yes or no, how many of you have seen all the men online who are speaking negatively about family and children? They don't want to take care of nobody's kids. A lot of them don't even want to take care of their own kids. And they also think that marriage is for suckers and marriage is stupid. And unfortunately, these are, and I'm not saying that you should get married. I'm not telling you to go get married. I'm just saying that the reason that people form families is because families are a part of your economic security. If you ain't got no money, at least if you got family, that you can go live with your daughter when she takes care of you. And I think that what happens is, and this is the lack of economic consciousness speaking too, a lot of 40-year-old men and 35-year-old men can't imagine themselves as a 65-year-old. They don't. They think they're gonna be a young player for life, and the penis is always gonna be working good, and you're gonna be hopping up and doing what you want. You could be independent. They don't look at their grandfathers. They don't go down and look at the old folks home and see how many tired 85-year-old men who can barely walk, back in the 1970s were players. They had 10 girlfriends and were on the move and doing whatever. They don't make that connection. So what I'm trying to do is I'm admitting, I admit I am the asshole who is trying to help those who need to make the connection to make the connection. People who don't want to listen, that's okay. I don't talk to them. I'm not interested in talking to them. I don't have time to talk to people who don't value a PhD in finance. If you think that I'm being uppity, or you think that somehow me talking about my doctorate makes me think I'm better than other people or something like that, I ain't got time to argue with you about that. All I got time to do is talk to the people that want to hear it. And it's a free country, and those who don't want to hear it, they can go hear something else. But I can tell you that when you dissect and you analyze the culture, when you look at what Paramount Pictures and BET are feeding to Black people as the culture, nearly 9 out of 10 elements of that culture are pretty much self-destructive. Most aspects of that culture are anti-education, it's anti-family, It's anti-preparation. It's anti-responsibility. It's pro it's pro negative everything. It's pro poverty, it's pro ignorance, it's pro it's anti health. It's very much in favor of baby mamaism, baby daddyism, STDs being spread, financial problems. Like what it feeds into, in my opinion, and this isn't me just talking as a black man, is that this culture feeds into this idea that because you are a former slave and you're black, you're supposed to always think like a slave. And you're not a captain of your own destiny on any level. You have no say in what happens to you. It's all up to the white man to decide if you're going to have a good life or not. And one of the best things I can tell you that my parents did give to me, my father, Larry Watkins, who took care of me, even though he didn't have to, because he's not my biological father, the best thing he helped me understand is that nobody controls your fate but you. The most important thing you can do in your life is take accountability for everything that happens to you, even if it's not totally your fault. It never helps you to sit here in the middle of shit and say, well, the reason I'm in the middle of shit is because somebody put me in the middle of shit. Well, the reason my life is bad is because somebody else made it bad. That don't make it better. You identifying the culprit, that don't make it better. Because I can tell you, when we sit around and we say, well, the reason it's so hard, the reason our kids can't read is because white people, they don't want to build us better schools. All you're doing is you're identifying how weak you are. All you're doing is you're telling the person that victimized you that you make an easy mark, that you are an easy target. That all you're gonna do is talk, and talk is cheap. Sticks and stones may break their bones, but words will never hurt them. And they're gonna keep on doing it. Tell me if I'm wrong. Give me, am I right or am I right? Seriously, look around. As much as we scream Black Lives Matter and want to have a George Floyd Day and all this other stuff, as much as we scream and holler about how badly we get treated, does that change a damn thing? Does any of that change? Do they hand you any of that wealth that you're owed, that $13.5 trillion that you're owed? Do you get any of that? Do they give you better communities? Do they help you get your family put back together? Do they help you with any of that? Do they even apologize? Do they even acknowledge what's been done to you? No, they don't. So literally, when you're complaining to white people, like one of the things I honestly have to say is like I don't have disrespect for anti-racists, like the people that go to white universities and teach white people how to not be racist. I respect them, I appreciate them because they have more patience than I do. They have a lot of patience because they truly think that if I go talk to enough white people about how badly we're being treated, that somehow they're going to change their behavior and they're going to feel sorry for us and make things better. You know what? All I can say when I see that is I say, I wish you the best of luck because you clearly, maybe I'm jaded. You clearly have more faith in white supremacy than I do because I don't believe that anybody's going to do it for you. I don't believe that our communities will ever be fixed by anybody but us. I don't believe that our lives are going to be made better by anybody but us. I don't believe that it's anybody else's responsibility to make our lives better, nor is it a responsibility that anybody else is ever going to take up. So, what I would just say to you is that when I tell you about this retirement crisis, I'm not just speaking as a finance professor who happens to be black. I'm speaking to you as a black man who happens to be a finance professor. So, these economic dynamics, to me, are merely a manifestation of all the other cultural pitfalls that come with being black. For example, let me explain it like this. And before I do that, if y'all could do me a quick favor, could y'all please hit that thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. You're watching drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent black people. This podcast is actually on Spotify and Apple. So if you want to really help us out in terms of distribution, we are building black-owned media and we're doing it successfully. If you go to Spotify or Apple, I have two podcasts. One is called the Dr. Boyce Breakdown, where I talk about a lot of different stuff and break it down for you. The other one's called How to Make Money Without Working, which is strictly economic. You'll never hear anything on that channel other than economic topics, even though everything circles back to economics, but sometimes it takes a little bit longer to circle because people get confused and they say, why are you talking about this? This ain't got nothing to do with finance. You just stick to finances. But then I always surprise them and I say, actually, this does link to finances, and let me explain why. So feel free to go check it out. Also, I have a new book out. It's an Amazon bestseller. It's called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. You can get a copy at drboycebooks.com. And then the last piece I want to mention to you guys is that this week I'm actually gathering a list of stocks that you can invest in to get exposure to Africa, and you can have that list for free. I will send it to you. Text the word stock to 87948, and I'll send that out this week. Text stock to 87948, and I'll make sure everybody on that text list gets that list. I'm going to make that list today. All right. So generally speaking, if you really want to sort of understand what happens to us, here's what I fundamentally believe. I believe, number one, nobody's going to save us but us. You're not a child, you're an adult, and with adulthood should come responsibility. I think one of the biggest challenges we have as a black community is that, unfortunately, a lot of your men are trained to be little children, and a lot of that comes from the way they deliberately manipulate entertainment, and they fill the top of entertainment with a bunch of feminine men and a bunch of goofy men that you then end up falsely identifying as black leaders, so nothing gets done. Like Diddy was never a black leader. All these comedians that are fighting on Club Shay Shay, these are a bunch of 50-year-old clowns that have never really done a whole lot for the black community. But yet, at the same time, the anti-intellectualism, the dysfunction, and the significant lack of leadership or vision shows itself in the fact that we are so obsessed with entertainment that nobody's really actually saying, how do we use this multi-million-dollar platform like a Club Shay Shay to actually get something done for the black community? Nothing's being created for the black community there except for an outlet where comedians go to fight each other. Now, so what that says to me is that, unfortunately, a lot of black men emulate that culture. A lot of brothers, they don't know how to be serious. They're not interested in being serious, right? Because think about it, the people that have the power or seem to have the power are the people that are telling jokes to white people and entertaining white folks. So why would I be a serious man when being a serious man means I'm not going to be as rich as the guy who tells really funny jokes? So effectively, you have just really a huge gap in leadership. And Malcolm X talked about that a lot too. He talked about how they deliberately put the clowns in front of the black community and say these are black leaders. He said look in the white community. Can you point? He said, can you name one white actor, actress, baseball player, or comedian that is considered to be a white leader? A leader in the white community. And he said, he basically, you really can't. I mean, sure, there's some exceptions, right? For people that prove themselves and prove that they actually have the credentials. But for the most part, the people that should be leading, the people that have a serious vision, the people that can actually get something done, the people that know how to develop infrastructure tend to not get as much attention as the people who know how to tell a joke or dribble a basketball. So effectively, this relegates black men to the role of being a beta to the white man's alpha. You're literally his beta. He's the alpha. He's the leader. He's off building rocket ships and skyscrapers and doing billion-dollar deals. You're telling jokes, dribbling basketballs, and rapping in the studio. Like, that's literally the most he'll let you do in his economy, right? So what has to occur long term, and this is me being a radical black man right now, and I hope that's okay. Um, what has to occur long term is you have to really develop children that have the skill to build their own economy. And the reason that that's important is because you can't have black power in a white man's economy. You just can't. It doesn't mean you can't do business with white people. It does not mean I dislike white people. This is not anti-white. I don't do that. But you can't. You really can't. You can only have so much influence, say, and power in that economy. You have to build your own. And building your own requires skill. It requires vision. It requires patience, and it requires substance over flash. The flashy Negro is not going to build the future. It's the black person of substance that builds the future. It's the one who really has a vision, quietly busts their butt to work hard on the vision, is not trying to be flashy, is not on the internet showing off his Lamborghini or how many chicks he's got. He's literally quietly working at his desk, developing algorithms and protocols that will allow for the existence of a black economy. These are the people that are going to get you there. These are the people that also built America in terms of what happened in the white community. If you look at the history of most great white companies, you'll find that they had some visionary who quietly worked as an engineer and developed something amazing. For example, in consciousness training, I showed the students the other day the very first automobile, or what was believed to be the very first automobile, which was created by a guy with the last name Benz, Benz. And that is obviously the founder. I think his name was Carl Benz. Carl Benz was the founder of Mercedes Benz. And I said, look at this first Mercedes. Look at this car. It was seen as a miracle of innovation at the time because what they did was they basically took a bicycle and made a wider seat and put an engine on the back of the bicycle. That's pretty much what they did because the bicycle was a new invention at that time, also, right? So this, but it was ugly, it was raggedy, you could barely steer it. It probably went 10 miles an hour. But that was the first Mercedes. That was literally the first Mercedes. And I said, so, and it took them a lot of work to build it. They had to really bust their butts to make this thing move. And so I say, imagine how shocked Carl Benz would be if you went back to 1886 and showed him what a Mercedes Benz looks like in 2024 with the nice luxury seats and the air condition and all different kinds of vehicles for different terrains and whatever, and just all different styles, and then you have Bentleys and everything else. Like, he would be shocked. He wouldn't believe it. He wouldn't believe it, right? Because he would compare that to his tiny little raggedy ugly little car that he had back in 1886. So what I'm saying is that, generally speaking, this is where you build those billion-dollar empires that are necessary to create thousands of jobs. You have somebody that starts something that's tiny, that looks raggedy, that's innovative yet underfunded, doesn't quite work right, but they're committed to it. Do you understand? They're committed to it because they can see that this can grow into something bigger, right? So like, for example, if you wanted to look at black athletes, it would be nothing for black athletes to have our own black sports league. It would be nothing. It would be very easy for the best athletes in the world to take all their money and create a black-owned sports league. But the reason they don't do it, in my opinion, is because they compare what their little raggedy league would look like to what the NFL looks like right now. They don't. They compare their league in year one to the NFL in year 101, and because their league would look so tiny and raggedy and underfunded, they think there's nothing there. They think there's nothing to invest in because they don't have the vision to understand. Like, okay, wait a minute. If this thing looks like this in year one, I wonder what it's going to look like in year 91, year 81, year 101, right? That's what visionaries do. So the question I ask in general is this. This is the question I want to ask you. I know I went extra deep on stuff because y'all know how I am. I just like to talk about this stuff. Who are the visionaries in the black community? Who are the people that have enough confidence in themselves, enough care for the future, have enough investor mindset, have enough vision, have enough desire to really start something now that's going to be raggedy right now, but has some probability of being amazing 100 years from now? Because if you don't have a lot of people who think that way, if everybody has a mindset where all you can do is think up to next Friday when you're going to get paid by your boss, well, then you'll never have anything. You'll never have any economic power. And I dare to say that before we fell in love with integration and before we just got so enamored by sitting next to the white man, that you had ancestors that had that kind of vision. You had a black Carl Benz who was creating automobiles in the black community and that would have grown into a black automobile manufacturer. You had black people that created sports leagues. Did y'all know that there used to be something called the Golden Glory Sweepstakes, which was basically a black version of NASCAR that literally had fans, and they would go places, and hundreds of black owned businesses would all make money every weekend because the Golden Glory Sweepstakes was in town? You had famous race car drivers. And did y'all know that? How many of y'all knew about what the Negro Leagues did when we had our own leagues and we built businesses around it? See, what you got to understand is that Jackie Robinson's achievement doesn't mean shit to me. It doesn't. I don't want to sound mean when I say this, but it means very little to me because what you traded the chance to have $100 billion industry so one Negro could get a goddamn job. That's what you did. You traded a whole entire $100 billion industry for one guy to get a job and for 10,000 other black people to be unemployed and for 10,000 other black businesses to go bankrupt. And this is the mental illness of integration. This is the mental illness of us not believing in ourselves and not caring about ourselves. This is the consequence. When you see all the economic despair, when you see people that can't keep jobs, that are struggling financially, and the racial wealth gap, you know what all that is? All that is a manifestation of the fact that you became so enamored with this BS concept called integration that you completely abandoned the significance and the importance of developing your own independent economic infrastructure that would keep you safe even when they don't like you no more. You are gotten to the point where you are falsely led to believe that the more I can convince white people that they should treat me better and give me more money, that the better off I'm going to be. And I'm just going to be frank and tell you this. I don't even dislike white people. I don't, people think I just am mad at white people all the time. I don't know, because I don't give them that. I don't give anybody that level of power in my life. But anyway, let me give you another piece of evidence of this. I just read today in financial consciousness training. We were reading. I was sharing with the students an article in the Atlanta Journal Constitution, where they talked about all these black-owned tech startups that were getting all this funding from white-owned venture capitalist companies right after George Floyd. Because that guilt kicked in, and because being black was very popular for about 10 minutes till the election happened. It wasn't a coincidence that it happened in an election year. It's going to happen again, because this is kind of the pattern they use to exploit you. And so in an election year, blackness became popular. They made George Floyd into a celebrity, even though, 20 black kids die a week in Chicago, I'm sure, right? But for some reason, they decided that George Floyd would be the celebrity or whatever. It's up to you to decide how you feel about that. And so because they did that, a lot of white venture capitalists started to give some funding to black-owned businesses. So they said, hooray, hooray, we're so excited. We got this money. Now we're flashy, we're flossing, we're leading the black community because we've been perched up on this platform with all this money that we're getting. This business gave us $3 million. So look at us, we're balling out of control. We are black excellence. Well, the problem is that what I end up seeing as a finance professor is I start asking myself this question. You're doing really well now that they give you that money, but what happens if they take the money away? Like, what happens if they just decide? See, because I understand, I studied things like the fall of Saigon and what happened in Vietnam when the Americans decided to withdraw all their troops and withdraw all their money and withdraw all their weapons and withdraw their support. People were getting shot in the street, getting their heads chopped off in front of their families. That's what happened. So in my mind, I was always like, I wonder what happens if they stop funding you. Well, in the Atlanta Journal Constitution, you can look it up. There was people ringing the alarm bell, ringing the victim bell, and saying this is an outrage. Black-owned startups, their funding levels have dropped 90% since 2022. Pay attention now. Yeah, I hope you're following the story here. They literally said that black tech startups, the amount of funding they were getting in 2022 was 90% more, sorry, or better yet, it's fallen 90% till between 2022 and 2024. So as a result, these businesses are dropping like the fall of Saigon. These businesses are going bankrupt by the pound. These owners, these founders don't know how to survive. Why? Because they never learned how to develop their own economic infrastructure. They never thought about, well, what's the plan B in case white folks don't like us no more? We get the privileges of being the chosen Negro, and that's wonderful. But what happens if they just get bored and decide they want to send their money to Ukraine? And now these businesses are dead because you made a deal with the devil. Because you somehow get so enamored with this idea that the more I integrate with people who hate me, the better off I'm going to be, the economically safer I'm going to be. And I'm the guy who's just, maybe I'm just, I don't know, maybe I'm the counter view. I don't know. I try not to be mean when I say it, but sometimes I get so frustrated that I can't help but to tell the truth. I have to say it this way. So one of the things I can tell you is this. Here's what I'm getting at. The solution, the economic solution for black people has never, ever been more jobs. Any politician who ever says black people need more jobs, you need to tell him to kiss your whole entire black ass, because black people don't need more jobs. What they need is more businesses. They also need access to enough capital to get moving, but you have to live below your means and bootstrap your way to having enough economic infrastructure such that you can continue to function and operate even if they stop funding you. Stop living off daddy's nipple, because one day he may take that nipple away. And that's what we do. Even as business owners, we're like, oh, they gave me $1 million to get my business off the ground. That's wonderful. Yeah, but that's not the same as you making $1 million. That's not your $1 million. You do know that, right? You do know that this is all temporary, and that they did not put a ring on it. They do not owe you nothing. They're not committed to you in any significant way. They can literally decide out of the blue to let you go. And in fact, I just spoke to a black person who's in the venture capital space who told me about a promising black owned business that was run by a very intelligent young black man who got, I want to say, about $7 or $8 million from either Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan or whatever. And then the business struggled and sputtered a little bit because he grew a little bit too fast. And next thing you know, they said, well, we don't want to fund you anymore. Now he's got to deal with the shame of declaring bankruptcy. That's what he's got to deal with. So the reason understanding economics is very important is because you got to understand that economics is war. How many of y'all get that? How many of y'all believe me when I tell you this? Give me a yes if you can even understand what I'm saying here. That economics is war. I did a whole training. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. If you Google it, I'm sure it's out there somewhere. I did a whole lecture in the Black Business School called "The Economics of Self-Defense." Why is that? Well, because when you have the insight into money and economics the way I do, you start to understand how America, particularly white supremacists, use their economic power to control other people, starting with the slaves, which might be you. I mean, don't think you can't be a slave just because you get paid. Slavery is not slavery. There's nothing in slavery that says you can't be getting compensated. Slavery is a lack of freedom. Slavery is when you have no choice. So a lot of people go to work every day because they have no choice, which means you're a slave. Because if you had choice, then you'd be free, but you're not free, which makes you a slave. That's what capitalism does. It's sneaky. Slavery works best when you convince them that they're free. It's like in politics when they give you the illusion of choice. They're like, which person do you want to vote for? The old senile guy or the fat senile guy? Like which one do you want? And then you say, oh, well, I've got a choice. No, you don't. You really don't have a choice because neither one of y'all will be voting for either one of those people if you really had a choice. So the illusion of choice is something that's readily used, and it happens in our country and it's life, right? So what I would say to you is that when you're talking about preparing for the future economically, and America's economic future is very bad, and the wealth gap is going to grow. The gap between the rich and poor is going to increase, and also what's going to happen? You got artificial intelligence now on the horizon. Artificial intelligence is going to knock shit out of the park. Now you got this crazy dilemma where people who have college degrees that they thought made them safe are actually putting them in danger. You're a computer programmer, you spend all your years studying how to program a computer, and you have to hear the CEO of NVIDIA literally say in an interview recently that we don't need computer programmers anymore. This is a guy that controls one of the most powerful corporations on the planet. NVIDIA is now worth, I think, $2 trillion. They have a net worth that exceeds a lot of countries. And this guy who is literally guiding the future of American technology has just said that they don't need computer programmers anymore. But there's a lot of other jobs that are going to disappear because of AI. So that's the white collar problem where you're already dealing with a world where your student loans have you shackled down to no end. And on top of that, workers' wages for even white collar workers were shrinking to begin with because they were always bringing immigrants over that could take like those high tech jobs or whatever, right? Because they will work for less money. Now you've got open borders, which are affecting the low skill jobs too, right? I went to Walmart the other day, and when I went into Walmart, I went to the first, I went through the door, and I had to find out if they took Apple Pay because I left my wallet at home. And the first guy I talked to spoke zero English, like did not understand a word I was saying. And I said, that's interesting. I've never gone to Walmart and encountered a person that worked there who did not understand a single word that I was saying. So he points me to another lady, the actual greeter. They have those greeters that say "Welcome to Walmart." I go to talk to her, and I ask her the same question. She didn't speak English either. She spoke no English. Only word she knew was "Welcome to Walmart." And I said, "Do you accept Apple Pay?" And she goes, "Welcome to Walmart." I said, "Yeah, thank you, but do you accept Apple Pay?" And she said, "Welcome to Walmart." And then when she realized that she wasn't answering my question, she said customer service. Apparently, that's the other phrase that she learned, that she memorized whenever customers had an issue. So she sent me to customer service. I talked to another lady. Now, this lady's white, right? And I'm thinking, okay, she's white, so she probably speaks English. She's probably from Tennessee or something, Walmart employee style, right? And I get to her, and her English, I probably understood 20% of what this lady said. I don't know her language. It wasn't Spanish. It was like probably maybe she was from Ukraine or something, but I didn't understand her either. And I remember thinking, this is so interesting. Now I think I understand the game. The game is we let all these workers in, which keeps us from really having to increase the minimum wage. And then now pay attention now, you still got inflation. How many of y'all have noticed inflation? How inflation's been making it more expensive to go to the grocery store. Inflation has made the cost of everything go up, right? So you still got inflation, right? And by the way, can y'all still hear me? Give me a yes if y'all can still hear me. I want to make sure y'all can hear me okay. I'm kind of moving around a little bit while I'm talking to you, but I just wanted to have a fireside chat with you today. So give me a quick yes. I see Big Cuz and Latoya and Marcus and JBL and Karen Dorsey. Can y'all hear me okay? Can y'all hear me clearly? I'm gonna wait for a second so you guys can give me a yes in the chat to let me know you can hear me. All right. Okay. CL Manaja Qua. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. All right. I appreciate that. Okay. So 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 I figured it out. I said, okay. Here's the hustle. The hustle is they're gonna bring in all these people that will work for $1 a day, like kind of like prison, another version of what they do with prison inmates, and they're just squeezing the American worker out. And what's fascinating to me is that you still have this insane inflation where the cost of everything is going up. So you're like, how are people going to figure this out? How are they going to survive when the cost of living is going up, wages are not going up, and jobs are being given to to people that will work for almost nothing. So what they're doing is they're just kind of creating like a criminal economy. Like in about 50 years, you're gonna have a lot of good people that are gonna resort to criminal behavior just because they have to do that in order to survive. And then what'll happen then is you're gonna have a real form of slavery because then there's gonna be another mass incarceration crisis, and then all they'll do is they'll make the prison inmates work for free, like they've been doing, like Joe Biden did with us back in the 1990s. So, so just be ready for that. When they say stay woke, if you go to sleep, I feel sorry for you because the economic gangsters will come and cut your throat while you're sleeping. They will. They do not care. And I know, and the reason I know this is because I know a lot of wealthy people. I know a lot of people that are stock market experts. I know people that made $1 million last week, right? I know people like that. And I also know people that are struggling because, I'm black and that's part of my experience. And I can just tell you, they're not in touch. They're just out of touch with kind of what regular people are going through. And in fact, even with something like inflation, everybody thinks that everyone's hurting from inflation, right? Everyone thinks that inflation is always bad for everyone. Inflation ain't bad for everybody. Everybody doesn't hate inflation. Inflation is actually quite good for people who own financial assets. When there's high inflation, the economy roars. The stock market hits new highs like it's hitting right now. A lot of you have seen Bitcoin has hit a record high as well. Lots of people made millions of dollars from that. Um, Real estate prices go up when there's inflation. So when the cost of your house goes up, well, guess what? People who own property are ecstatic about that. So don't ever think that inflation means that everybody's suffering. That's not true. It means somebody's suffering. It means somebody, and it really, honestly, if you really break it down, it means that one group is benefiting at the expense of the other. Because really, if they really cared about the American worker the way I wish that they did, they wouldn't allow any inflation, or they would increase wages at the rate of inflation. They would make sure that whenever the cost of bread goes up, that people would make more money to afford that bread. But they don't do that. They'll let the cost of bread go up and won't increase your pay. So this means for this is for so here's my message, my summary message for intelligent black people. And really intelligent people, period. You ain't gotta be black to be here. I talk about white folks, but I don't want you to be scared. I'm a very nice guy. So my message for you, those who want to be canaries in mine, want to be ready, is understand that we're no longer in an era where the side hustle is optional. You should never go through life with one stream of income. You also want to have enough economic consciousness to understand how things like family and getting along with the people that you could be making money with is a really essential part of your economic survival. A person who has the right relationships has a much easier time getting resources than a person who can't maintain a relationship. So even skills like, if I opened a school, I would literally teach the kids how to manage relationships. I would literally teach them how to resolve conflicts. I would teach them how to manage a family, how to get along with your spouse. Just little basic things like pay attention. Like whenever they talk about how everybody's struggling with the economy, the examples they always use are people that are trying to do it all by themselves. They want you to be an individual. They want individualism because individuals are easier to conquer and easier to control. That's what it is. People who have families or who have backup, who have options, are much harder to control. Think about it. Who's more likely to show up to work when you tell them to come to work at a crappy job for a low wage? The person who's financially desperate, who has no backup, or the person who has plenty of options? Which one? Which person is the corporation happier to deal with? And which person is going to be more reliable for the corporation? Well, it's the financially desperate person. Because if you got nowhere to go and no options, then I become your only option. And that's why I think that they created even the welfare state, where they started telling black families to get the man out of the house, and and you can't make but so much money and all this other stuff. It's like, because if I can keep you struggling, then I become your savior, right? I put roaches. It's almost like an exterminator that puts roaches in your house so that you will pay them to exterminate the roaches that are in your house because they put them there. So don't let people put roaches in your house. Don't let them feed you a poverty, financial slavery culture, and then make themselves into the hero, or may put you in a position where you got to accept whatever scraps they offer you. Be proactive. So one example, for example, so I was talking earlier about how most of the time when they explain how people are struggling in the economy, they always use an example of a person who is doing it all by themselves, and they say, well, this person only makes $3,500 a month after taxes, and their rent is 1,500 or 1,800, and they can't, and the cost of food is this much, and the cost of the entertainment is that much. How are they going to survive, right? Well, they're doing what I call simple-minded math. The best math to do is to say, okay, what if you have a married couple, and then both of them are making 3,500 a month? Well, now not only can they easily afford the $1,800 a month apartment, but they can actually get a home that costs 4,000 a month and afford that comfortably, or 3,000 a month, or whatever, right? Some really nice number, like our mortgage, like our house that we got. It's worth a decent amount of money. The mortgage is about 3,200. A $3,200 mortgage is affordable with two people if they both make 3,500 a month after taxes. It's hard to afford with one person that makes that much after taxes. Do you understand? So when people talk about even things like marriage and family, it drives me crazy that everybody's just thinking about relationships as a booty call. Like, who's going to give me the best sex, and who's going to submit to me, and who's going to cook my food, and all that matters and stuff. But that to me is secondary to your survival. The more you can survive, the more of a stable home environment you can create for those children. You're not giving them financial trauma because you've got money in the bank, you got money saved, you got a plan, you got investments in place, and you have a legacy that you're building so that they're not going to get dumped in the same shithole that a lot of us got dumped into. So don't let them convince you to live in the middle of chaos. You don't have to live that way. You can live in the middle of structure, but you have to become conscious, right? Everybody always talks about being woke. Everybody talks about being woke and the awakening and all this other stuff. Well, to me, being woke, there's very few things in America that are more important than being financially woke. So those who are financially woke understand what's going on. They understand how to protect themselves. And I just want you to be prepared. Okay. So anyway, that's enough. I hope that this conversation helped you. I know that I was just kind of going off and going into a lot of different directions. But also, if you want to join us for our financial consciousness training, you can join the live sessions for free. Just text the word morning to 87948, and I'll send you a link where you can join us tomorrow morning. We meet every single morning for financial consciousness, financial meditations, and financial lessons every single morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, and we do this 7 days a week, every single day, because the goal is I want you thinking about your economics every day. I want you analyzing your financial situation every day. I want you making your master plan every day. I want you obsessed with it. I want you talking to people about it. I want you to be the canary in the mine that inspires other people in your family because you're so committed to it. Because people who think that way, they tend to be in much better shape than people who don't think that way. All right. So anyway, that's it. I hope that this was helpful. And my new book is The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. You can get a copy at drboycebooks.com. And also, we're doing a stock options summit. Speaking of having options, stock options are a great way to make extra money. So if you'd like to join us at the stock options summit, I can send you an invitation. Text the word money to 87948. So 87948 is the general text number. Sometimes I'll give you different words to get different materials from the Black Business School. So text the word money to 87948. So I hope this was helpful. If you could, please hit that thumbs up button, share, subscribe on your way out the door. Feel free to leave comments as well about topics that you'd like for us to discuss on this podcast, any current events, stuff like that. I'm always interested in knowing what's going on in the world. And I love you guys. And I hope you have a wonderful, I think today's Sunday, right? Yeah. Have a wonderful Sunday. I'll talk to you later. Peace. Adios.